The human ship shuddered as it entered the atmosphere of Virelia, a planet known throughout the galaxy for its advanced technology and proud aristocracy. Its towering cities sparkled with light, and massive spires rose above forests and rivers, a harmony of nature and machine. From orbit it looked peaceful, but the humans' new appearances could be deceiving. Sergeant Ethan Callan, the human soldier aboard the ship, gripped the railing of the observation deck. He had seen a lot in his years of service, but this was different. He was not on a combat mission. This was diplomacy, or at least that was what his orders said. Yet in his gut, he felt tension waiting for him below, like the calm before a storm. Beside him, his pilot and companion, Lieutenant Mira Torres, adjusted her helmet. "Brace yourself, Ethan. They don't make visitors feel comfortable here, especially humans." Ethan nodded but said nothing. Words rarely helped in situations like this. He had learned long ago that actions carried more weight than speech. The landing was precise. The shuttle descended onto a wide platform surrounded by elegant towers. Alien guards with long flowing robes and intricate armor stood at attention. Their skin was pale green with markings that shimmered faintly under the sunlight. Their eyes, large and reflective, studied every movement of the humans with cold analytical focus. As the ramp lowered, Ethan stepped onto the platform. His boots clicked against the polished surface. He straightened his uniform and carried himself with quiet confidence. The aliens, who expected weakness or fear, were met instead with calm determination. From the crowd, a sharp laugh rang out. Ethan turned toward the sound. She was tall for her species, her features sharp and delicate, her expression confident and mocking. Long silver hair flowed behind her as she stepped forward, flanked by attendants who mirrored her elegance. Her eyes, a striking violet, locked onto Ethan. "You must be the human," she said, her voice dripping with amusement. "The one they sent to represent whatever humans call honor." Ethan's brow furrowed slightly. He had been mocked many times before, but this was different. It was public, deliberate, and meant to sting. Yet he did not retreat. Instead, he inclined his head slightly in acknowledgement. "I am Sergeant Ethan Callan," he said simply, "and I'm here on official orders." The noblewoman's lips curled into a smirk. "Orders?" she said, echoing the word as if it tasted strange. "How quaint. Tell me, Sergeant, does your species even know how to handle power, or do you run and hide at the first sign of trouble?" Mira's hand tensed at Ethan's side, but he remained calm. He could see the amusement in the noblewoman's attendants. They were enjoying the spectacle as much as she was. He could also see the faint unease behind the eyes of the guards. They were used to protocol, not the unsettling confidence of a human. Ethan did not answer immediately. Instead, he scanned the surroundings. He noticed the layout of the platform, the positions of the guards, the patterns in the crowd. His military mind worked quickly, turning observation into potential strategy. Humans survived in situations like this by adapting. Alien superiority, he realized, often relied on rigid patterns. The noblewoman's laughter broke his thoughts. "You stare too much, human. Are you scared?" "I am observant," Ethan said evenly. "I need to understand the environment before I act. That's how humans survive." Her smirk faltered slightly, but she quickly recovered. "Survival?" she scoffed. "Your species survives like animals. Weak, messy, and predictable." Ethan's jaw tightened, but he did not raise his voice. "Perhaps. But humans also endure. We keep going when others give up." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Some attendants exchanged glances. Ethan could feel the subtle shift in the atmosphere. He did not have alien technology, wealth, or inherited status, but his calm, unwavering presence made the aliens used to superiority pause. The noblewoman, clearly determined not to yield, stepped closer. Her voice dropped, sharp and cutting. "Endure? Tell me, human, how will you endure when you face challenges you cannot see, cannot control? Will you survive when everything you know fails?" Ethan finally smiled, just a hint. It was not humor, not arrogance, simply certainty. "I don't know what challenges I will face," he said. "But I know this. Humans fight with what we have, we adapt, and we never stop trying." For a moment, the noblewoman's violet eyes narrowed. She had expected him to flinch, to stumble, perhaps to beg for respect. Instead, he stood firm. It was unsettling. The tension was broken by the arrival of her mother, the matriarch of the ruling family. She moved with elegance and authority, her presence commanding silence. Her robes shimmered like the surface of water under sunlight. and her gaze swept over the humans with an unreadable expression. "My daughter," the matriarch said, her voice resonant and firm. "You speak of weakness as if it is a flaw, yet this human stands before you with courage, discipline, and composure. Tell me, what have you seen in him to deserve ridicule?" The noblewoman faltered, caught off guard by her mother's question. He is unrefined," she replied almost defensively. "Primitive. The matriarch raised a hand, silencing her daughter. "Refinement without strength is meaningless. Technology without wisdom is hollow. And arrogance without understanding is dangerous." She turned to Ethan. "Sergeant Callan, welcome to Virelia. You may find our society unfamiliar, perhaps even hostile. But know this: courage is recognized even among those who do not show it openly." Ethan inclined his head, a small gesture of respect. "Thank you, ma'am. I am here to do my duty, nothing more, nothing less." The noblewoman's eyes, still sharp, softened just slightly. She studied him with renewed curiosity. He was not what she expected. The humans she had read about in history books were brash, reckless, and chaotic. This one was none of those things, yet he carried an aura of strength that demanded attention. The matriarch continued, "There will be tests of skill, of wit, and of character during your stay. Our people are proud and our customs strict. But understand this, Sergeant, respect is earned, not given. Show us your worth and even the highest nobility will recognize it." Ethan nodded again. His training, his experiences, his failures and successes, all had prepared him for moments like this. He did not need alien approval to know his value, but he would not underestimate the challenge. The noblewoman stepped back, her amusement replaced by something else. Fascination, maybe, or a grudging acknowledgement. "We shall see, human," she said quietly, more to herself than to him. "We shall see." The crowd began to disperse, the ceremonies of welcome continuing around them. Ethan followed the matriarch, his senses alert. Every step, every movement was a chance to learn, to adapt, to survive. He may have been the outsider, the ridiculed human soldier, but he carried something no alien could fully measure: determination. The next morning, the sun rose over Virelia, casting a warm glow on the gleaming towers and the sprawling training grounds below. Sergeant Ethan Callan stood at the edge of the central plaza, flanked by alien instructors and a small contingent of guards. Today was his first test. The matriarch had promised challenges of skill, wit, and character, and from the looks of the alien structures before him, he would need all three. The young noblewoman, Lyria, appeared first. Her silver hair shimmered in the morning light as she leaned casually against a tall pillar, arms crossed. Her violet eyes glinted with amusement. "Are you ready, human?" she asked, her tone mocking. "Or will you embarrass yourself in front of everyone again?" Ethan met her gaze steadily. "I'm ready," he replied. There was no arrogance, no defensiveness, just calm certainty. The matriarch stepped forward, her presence commanding silence. "Sergeant Callan," she said, her voice echoing across the plaza, "your first challenge is one of agility and strategy. You will navigate the obstacle grid. Failure is allowed, but only those who adapt succeed." The obstacle grid was an enormous structure, a combination of vertical walls, swinging barriers, and platforms suspended high above the ground. Aliens who trained here from childhood moved through it with grace and speed. Humans were not known for climbing agility or balance in zero-error environments, yet Ethan did not flinch. "Your time starts now," the matriarch announced. Lyria laughed, a sharp, musical sound that echoed off the towers. She had chosen to compete as well, though she clearly did not expect the human to match her. Within moments, she leapt from one platform to another with practiced ease, her movements fluid and precise. Ethan waited until the first swinging barrier approached, then sprinted forward. He did not mimic alien grace, he moved differently. Short, strong bursts of motion, quick adjustments, and careful timing. His human reflexes, honed through countless exercises in unpredictable environments, allowed him to avoid obstacles in ways the aliens did not anticipate. He stumbled once, narrowly catching a platform with his hands, but he recovered quickly. The crowd murmured. Humans were supposed to be clumsy, weak, and unrefined. Yet here was one, adjusting mid-air, overcoming obstacles with sheer determination and quick thinking. By the time he reached the highest platform, Lyria had already completed the course. She looked down at him, expecting failure, but instead saw him land solidly on the final platform, breathing steadily. "How?" she muttered, almost under her breath. Ethan offered a slight nod in acknowledgement, but he did not gloat. "Different method," he said simply. "Works just as well." The matriarch's eyes shone with approval. "Well done, Sergeant. You have shown that adaptability can rival natural skill." Lyria's face twisted with conflicting emotions. She wanted to be annoyed, to dismiss his success, but she could not. Humans were not supposed to compete at this level, yet here was one defying her expectations. Next came a test of strategy. The aliens called it the Mind Weave, a holographic simulation where participants directed fleets through complex scenarios. Tactical thinking, anticipation, and foresight determined the winner. Lyria approached it with confidence, quickly arranging her units and issuing commands. Her screens displayed elegance and precision. Ethan, unfamiliar with the technology, studied the simulation carefully. He did not follow the same method as Lyria. Instead, he focused on basic principles: cover, movement, and the element of surprise. His human intuition for unpredictability gave him an edge. While the alien units followed their expected paths, Ethan's unit struck in unexpected ways, forcing the simulation's AI to adapt. Within minutes, the results were clear. Ethan had outmaneuvered the noblewoman. The crowd gasped. Some aliens whispered to each other, astonished that a human could excel where they believed humans could not. Lyria's eyes narrowed. She wanted to scowl, to ridicule, but she felt a pang of admiration. You are lucky," she said, though her voice carried a hint of respect she did not intend. "Not luck," Ethan replied quietly. "Observation and adaptation." The matriarch's approval was evident. "Excellent, Sergeant. You demonstrate that intelligence and adaptability are as powerful as raw skill. Remember this lesson, young noble. Strength alone is not enough." The final challenge was survival. Ethan and Lyria were led to the outskirts of the city, where a controlled but dangerous terrain awaited them. Steep cliffs, loose rocks, and hidden traps. Each participant had to navigate the area while retrieving markers scattered across the landscape. It was meant to test courage, quick thinking, and physical endurance. Lyria bounded forward, moving gracefully along the cliffs. Ethan followed more cautiously, testing each step, adjusting his path when the terrain shifted beneath him. When a sudden rock slide occurred, Lyria froze for a moment, her confidence shaken. Ethan reacted instantly, grabbing a loose branch and forming a makeshift bridge to cross a widening gap. He did not hesitate. He did not overthink. Humans survived through action and resilience, and he relied on those instincts now. Lyria watched, her usual smugness replaced with astonishment. The young alien had never seen someone move with such calm determination under pressure. When they reached the final marker, Ethan was slightly ahead, though he showed no sign of triumph. He offered a hand to Lyria as she reached the same point, and she hesitated before taking it. It was an unspoken acknowledgement. One human had proven himself without arrogance or boasting. Back at the plaza, the matriarch observed the results. "Sergeant Callan, you have completed all 3 challenges with distinction. You have not only survived but excelled. You have shown courage, intelligence, and adaptability, all qualities we value highly." Lyria, still catching her breath, faced Ethan. For the first time, she looked at him not with ridicule but with measured curiosity. "You are different," she admitted quietly. "I have never seen anyone like you." Ethan nodded politely. "I am just a human, doing what humans do best: adapt and endure." The noblewoman frowned slightly, unsure whether to be offended or impressed. The crowd, meanwhile, began murmuring with respect. Humans were not meant to stand out on Viralia. They were supposed to be weak, clumsy, and limited. Yet here was one showing competence, courage, and a quiet strength that demanded attention. The matriarch turned to Lyria. "Do you understand now, daughter? Ridicule is easy. Respect must be earned. And even the most unlikely beings can demonstrate worth when they rise to challenges." Lyria swallowed hard, nodding. The words cut deeper than she expected. All her life, she had been taught that humans were beneath her. Now one stood before her, not only surviving but excelling. Ethan, meanwhile, simply adjusted his uniform and observed the crowd. He did not seek praise or attention. He understood something fundamental. Recognition was not the goal. Success came from doing the right thing, from perseverance and courage. The day ended with the matriarch placing her hand on Ethan's shoulder. "You have passed the first trials, Sergeant. But remember, greater challenges lie ahead. The true measure of worth is not skill alone, but how one acts under pressure when lives are at stake." Ethan met her gaze calmly. "I understand. I will do my best." Lyria remained silent, her thoughts conflicted. She had mocked him in the morning, confident in her superiority. By evening, she had witnessed something she could not dismiss. Humans were unpredictable, resilient, and capable of achieving the impossible. The calm of Virelia's morning was shattered by alarms, sharp, piercing sounds that echoed across the gleaming towers. Ethan Callan had just begun his breakfast when the entire city's warning system blared. Red lights flashed across the plaza and streets, and citizens hurried to safety. "What's happening?" Mira Torres asked, grabbing Ethan's arm. Before he could respond, a loudspeaker carried the matriarch's voice. "All citizens remain calm. The outer defenses have detected an unauthorized incursion. All able personnel report to emergency stations immediately." Ethan's instincts kicked in. He did not wait for orders. Humans had faced impossible situations before, and action always came first. Grabbing his standard-issue gear, he followed the matriarch's security detail into the command center. The room was a whirlwind of activity. Alien officers tapped holographic consoles, analyzing incoming threats. Ethan scanned the main display. A fleet of sleek black ships was emerging from the outer system, moving with precision and lethal intent. They were armed, fast, and clearly not here for diplomacy. "This is not a drill," the matriarch said, her calm authority cutting through the chaos. "These invaders are advanced, but they have underestimated us." "Ethan Callan," she said, turning to him, "you may assist in coordinating civilian evacuation. Your experience in unpredictable combat is valuable." Lyria appeared at the edge of the room, her expression tense. Her usual confidence was gone, replaced by fear. "Sergeant," she said, almost breathless, "they are attacking faster than our defenses can respond." "What do we do?" Ethan studied the maps and sensors. "First, organize civilians away from the most dangerous zones. Then identify weak points in the fleet's formation. We hit them there. If they are fast, we need unpredictable countermeasures. Their patterns will be consistent. They rely on technology, not improvisation." The matriarch nodded. "Proceed, but remember, mistakes cost lives." Ethan moved swiftly, issuing clear commands. He coordinated evacuation routes, using routes the aliens had overlooked as minor or unnecessary. Civilians moved efficiently, surprised at how smoothly the process ran under his guidance. Lyria watched, amazed at how calm and focused he was amidst chaos. Meanwhile, Ethan's mind raced through possibilities. The attacking ships had advanced shields, but their formation was rigid. If he could disrupt one section, the rest would hesitate, giving Virelia's defenders an opening. He quickly sketched a plan, drawing on human combat experience and improvisation. "This section here," he said, pointing at the display, "is overextended. Concentrate defensive fire there, but lure them into the narrow passages. They will lose coordination, and we can neutralize their weapon systems one by one." Lyria hesitated. "It's risky. If it fails, it won't fail," Ethan said firmly. "We adapt as we go. That's how humans survive." The aliens were skeptical. Humans were considered chaotic, unpredictable, and inferior in strategy. Yet under Ethan's direction, their defensive fleet moved with purpose. They used unconventional tactics, changing formations suddenly, creating openings in the invaders' attacks. Ethan personally oversaw key sectors, directing fire and making real-time decisions. His human intuition allowed him to anticipate the enemy's next moves. When one ship tried to flank their defenses, Ethan redirected countermeasures, turning a potential disaster into a strategic advantage. Lyria followed him, assisting with the communication network. "I can't believe this. Your tactics are working," she admitted quietly. Ethan did not look at her. "They will always work if you stay calm and adapt. Panic kills faster than any enemy." The first wave of enemy ships was repelled, but more were incoming. The matriarch called for a council in the command center. "We cannot hold much longer," she said, her voice steady despite the stress. "Ethan, you have proven useful, but we need a decisive action." Ethan studied the tactical map. "We can use the terrain," he said, pointing to a cluster of asteroid-like structures in orbit. They will follow our fleet in formation. If we lure them there, we can force a bottleneck. Their numbers won't matter if they cannot maneuver. Then we strike the core ship, take it out, and the rest will retreat or be destroyed. The matriarch considered the plan. It is unconventional, but it may be our only option. Then we do it, Ethan said. Immediately. Timing is everything. Lyria prepared the attack grid, still amazed that a human soldier could command with such precision. Her earlier ridicule was gone, replaced with awe. This was no ordinary human. This was a leader, a strategist, a force that even advanced aliens could not ignore. The fleet moved according to Ethan's plan. The enemy, confident in their speed and technology, followed predictably into the bottleneck. Once in position, Virelia's ship struck with coordinated volleys. Shields failed under concentrated fire. The core ship took heavy damage, and the invaders began to retreat in disarray. Cheers erupted in the command center, but Ethan did not celebrate. He continued monitoring the battlefield, ensuring no ships slipped through or civilians were at risk. Only when the last enemy ship was disabled did he allow himself a small exhale of relief. The matriarch approached him, her expression a mix of pride and astonishment. "Sergeant Callan," she said, "you have saved countless lives today, not through technology alone, but through leadership, courage, and adaptability. Your actions have proven the worth of your species." Lyria stood beside her mother, still silent. When she finally spoke, her voice was quiet but firm. "I misjudged you. Humans are stronger than I thought." Ethan nodded politely. It was not strength alone. It was teamwork, observation, and persistence. Anyone can do it with the right mindset. Lyria's violet eyes softened, the last traces of ridicule gone. She realized that humans were not inferior. They were unpredictable, resilient, and capable of rising above limitations that even advanced aliens could not overcome. The matriarch raised her hand, signaling the command center to attention. "Let this day be remembered," she said. "Even the highest and proudest of our people must acknowledge that courage and ingenuity are not bound by species. Sergeant Callan, you have earned our respect." The room fell silent, the weight of her words sinking in. For the first time, the humans were not outsiders, they were equals in a critical moment. Lyria stepped forward, hesitating before speaking. "Sergeant, I bow to your actions. You have shown me what humans can do." Ethan inclined his head, a gesture of respect in return. "Thank you. But this was about saving lives, not honor." The young noblewoman's pride was bruised, yet she could not deny the truth. The human before her had acted with courage, intelligence, and decisiveness. He had faced a threat no one expected him to survive, and he had succeeded. That night, as Virelia celebrated the victory and repaired the damage, Ethan stood quietly on a balcony overlooking the city. The light shimmered in the distance, and the air was calm again. He thought of Lyria, her initial ridicule, and her eventual acknowledgement. It was a small victory beyond the battlefield. A human's resilience had changed perceptions and perhaps even hearts. Mira joined him, handing him a drink. "You did good today," she said softly. Ethan smiled faintly. "We all did good. But humans, we adapt. That's how we survive." Lyria, watching from a nearby balcony, did not intervene. She remained silent, reflecting on everything she had witnessed. Her arrogance had been shattered, replaced by respect, and perhaps the first flicker of admiration. Days had passed since the attack on Virelia. The city, though scarred in parts, had regained its rhythm. Repair crews worked tirelessly, and civilians resumed their routines. But the memory of the threat lingered like a shadow, reminding everyone of the fragility even a technologically superior society could face. Sergeant Ethan Callan walked among the city's citizens, observing quietly. He had learned much about Virelia, their customs, their strengths, and their weaknesses. But even more importantly, he had learned about the subtle arrogance of those who believed themselves untouchable. Humans survived not by being invincible, but by staying alert, adaptable, and unafraid to act when others hesitated. Lyria appeared at his side, her silver hair glinting in the sunlight. She had stopped mocking him entirely, though her pride still demanded she hide any overt admiration. "You continue to move among them as if nothing happened," she said, her voice soft. "Do you not feel anything? The city could have been destroyed. Many could have died." Ethan looked at her calmly. "I feel responsibility. That is different from fear. If I dwell on what could have happened, I cannot act effectively when it matters. Lyria frowned, unsure what to make of him. His composure, his quiet confidence unsettled her more than any insult she had thrown before. Humans, she realized, were not like Virelians. They did not rely solely on technology, status, or inherited skill. They relied on determination, instinct, and courage. The matriarch summoned both of them to the council chamber later that day. The chamber was vast, with high ceilings and a polished floor that reflected the golden light streaming in from above. Representatives from every sector of the city gathered, their expressions tense. "Sergeant Callan," the matriarch began, "your actions during the invasion have earned you recognition. But the threat is not gone. Intelligence reports indicate that a second wave is possible. This time it may be more organized, more relentless. We need your input on our next move." Ethan stepped forward, analyzing the data on the holographic display. The invaders were likely to avoid the main city's defenses and target smaller settlements first, hoping to divide attention and weaken morale. "We should create decoy positions," he said. "Move critical assets to safer locations and leave apparent weaknesses where they can see. Then we hit them when they attempt to exploit those openings." Lyria's eyes widened slightly. She had never heard a plan so simple yet so effective. It relied on logic, human intuition, and unpredictability, all traits Virelians rarely considered. "This is unorthodox," one counselor said skeptically. Ethan nodded. "Unorthodox does not mean wrong. The invaders expect us to follow predictable patterns. We will use that against them." The matriarch's expression softened with approval. "Proceed with the plan, Sergeant. Your insight is invaluable." The following days were tense. Ethan oversaw the relocation of resources, the creation of decoys, and the coordination of defensive teams. Civilians and soldiers alike began to notice the strange calm with which he directed operations. Where others might panic, Ethan maintained clarity, giving precise instructions and expecting them to be followed. Lyria shadowed him, assisting where she could. She had learned quickly that human methods were different but effective. And with each decision he made, each successful maneuver, her respect deepened. Then the attack came. The invaders appeared at multiple points as Ethan predicted. Smaller settlements were threatened, and the city's perimeter was tested again. But thanks to the decoy strategy, many enemy ships were lured into traps. Virelia's defenders struck decisively, neutralizing threats before they could gain ground. Lyria watched in awe as Ethan moved among the teams, calm and precise. He did not rely on the city's technology to do the thinking for him. He made real-time decisions, adjusted tactics when situations changed, and ensured that every civilian was accounted for. When a small group of invaders attempted to infiltrate a densely populated sector, Ethan personally directed a team to intercept them. They engaged in combat that combined both alien technology and human improvisation. Ethan's approach was efficient, lethal when necessary, but always calculated to minimize risk to the civilians. By nightfall, the second wave had been repelled. Casualties were minimal and the city remained intact. Virelia had survived, not through overwhelming technology alone, but through human ingenuity, courage, and leadership. The matriarch convened the council once more. "Sergeant Callan, you have done more than save lives," she said. "You have shown us that strength is not measured solely in power or weapons, but in the mind and spirit. You have changed the way we view humans." Lyria stepped forward, her usual pride tempered by humility. I owe you an apology, Sergeant," she said. "I ridiculed you when I should have been paying attention. You have shown me what humans can do. Not just in strength, but in strategy, courage, and heart." Ethan inclined his head. "I do not need apologies. I only need understanding. Humans survive because we never give up, even when the odds seem impossible." The noble woman's pride slowly melted into admiration. She realized that the man before her had not just saved a city, but had taught her and her people a profound lesson about resilience and ingenuity. Later, as the city celebrated its survival, Ethan walked with Lyria and Mira through the streets. Children waved at him, citizens thanked him, and even some skeptical counselors gave him nods of respect. The human soldier had become more than a visitor. He had become a symbol of courage and perseverance. Lyria glanced at him, her eyes thoughtful. "Do you ever stop being calm?" she asked. Ethan smiled faintly. "No, calm is useful. Panic is deadly. Humans learn that quickly. She shook her head, partly in disbelief, partly in admiration. I think I underestimated your species. Ethan looked ahead, his gaze steady. Maybe, but the important thing is that now you understand. Humans are more than you imagine. We survive, we adapt, and we endure. The matriarch approached, her expression proud. Sergeant Callan, she said, placing a hand on Ethan's shoulder. You have earned our respect and gratitude. There is one final lesson we must all acknowledge. Sometimes the smallest and most unlikely of allies can teach the greatest lessons. Lyria, standing nearby, met Ethan's gaze. She had no words for what she felt: respect, awe, and perhaps the first hint of genuine admiration. Her ridicule was gone, replaced by something far more complex. Ethan said nothing, but a quiet understanding passed between them. In the coming days, he would continue to prove himself, not just in battle, but in leadership, integrity, and the courage to stand when others faltered. That night, as Virelia slept under a sky filled with stars, Ethan stood on a balcony, looking out over the city he had helped save. Mira joined him, offering a small, proud smile. You've changed their view of humans forever, she said. Ethan nodded. Perhaps, but it's not about changing views. It's about doing what's right no matter who watches. Virelia was alive. The city's towers gleamed in the early morning sun, repaired and standing taller than ever. Citizens walked through the streets with renewed confidence, their eyes reflecting both relief and awe. Yet the true hero of the past week, Sergeant Ethan Callan, remained modest, moving quietly among the people, observing, helping where needed, but never seeking recognition. The matriarch had summoned a grand assembly in the central plaza. Every noble, officer, and citizen of note gathered, filling the wide square with a sense of anticipation. Flags fluttered, banners displayed the city's colors, and a stage had been set for the official recognition of those who had saved the city. Ethan walked onto the platform, flanked by Mira Torres and a small contingent of Virelian guards assigned to ceremonial honor. He did not look around at the crowd. He focused on the matriarch and the noblewoman who had once mocked him, Lyria. The matriarch stepped forward, her robes shimmering like sunlight on water. She raised her hand and silence fell over the plaza. Even the wind seemed to pause. Sergeant Ethan Callan, she began, her voice carrying clearly to every corner. You have done what no one expected. You have not only saved our people, but have shown courage, intelligence, and the unyielding spirit of your species. Today you are recognized not just as an ally, but as an equal of Virelia. Ethan nodded humbly. I did what any human would do in the same situation. My actions were to protect lives, nothing more. The matriarch's eyes glimmered with respect. Humility is a rare and noble trait. It is why we honor you. She paused and turned her gaze toward her daughter, Lyria. And now, my child, it is time you show the respect that has been earned. Bow before him. Lyria's eyes widened. For a moment, pride and disbelief warred within her. Bow before a human? She had ridiculed him, mocked his species, and doubted his abilities. Yet here was the undeniable truth. He had saved her world, and no amount of arrogance could deny it. Slowly, she stepped forward. Her silver hair shimmered in the sunlight as she approached Ethan. The crowd watched in silence, every eye on the young noblewoman as she bent at the waist in a formal bow. It was a gesture heavy with meaning, not only honor but also acknowledgement of everything the human had accomplished. Ethan met her eyes and inclined his head slightly in return. It was a simple gesture, but it carried respect, understanding, and the silent acknowledgement of shared experience. The plaza erupted in applause. Citizens, nobles, and guards all recognized the significance of the moment. Humans were no longer outsiders. They were heroes, worthy of recognition and admiration. The matriarch raised her hand to quiet the crowd. Let this day be remembered, she said, her voice firm and proud. Let it serve as a lesson to all. Strength is not measured by technology alone nor by birthright. It is measured by courage, ingenuity, and the willingness to act when others hesitate. Sergeant Callan embodies these qualities, and his legacy will endure in our history. Ethan looked out over the plaza, seeing the faces of people he had never met before, now filled with gratitude and respect. He thought of his own home, his training, and the countless situations where humans had overcome impossible odds. This recognition, though profound, was not about personal glory. It was about proving a universal truth. Humanity endures. Lyria, now standing beside him, straightened after her bow. Her violet eyes met his, and this time there was no trace of ridicule, only respect and a hint of admiration. I misjudged you, she said softly. You are everything I did not expect. Everything I should have seen from the start. Ethan smiled faintly. Judgment is easy. Understanding takes effort. I am glad you chose to see the truth. The matriarch continued, addressing both her daughter and the assembly. Let it be known that Sergeant Callan's actions have united our people in a new understanding. Humans may be different, but they are capable of greatness. Let us honor that greatness and remember that courage and wisdom are universal traits, not bound by species or status. From that moment forward, humans were regarded differently on Virelia. The matriarch decreed that human representatives would always be welcomed, not merely as diplomats but as partners in strategy and protection. And while other aliens might still harbor prejudice or doubt, the example of Ethan Callan was impossible to ignore. In the days that followed, Lyria approached Ethan more openly. No longer mocking, she sought guidance, asked questions, and learned from him. Their conversations were no longer confrontational. They were collaborative. She saw the value of human perspective, human adaptability, and human courage in ways she had never imagined. Ethan continued his work quietly, assisting where needed, teaching, observing, and guiding. He did not seek fame or reward. For him, the mission had always been clear: protect lives, make a difference, and show that humans could rise to any challenge. One evening, as the sun set over the towers of Virelia, Ethan stood on a balcony with Mira and Lyria. The sky was painted in shades of orange and purple, the city glowing in the fading light. Lyria spoke softly, almost to herself. Your species, it is remarkable. We thought we were superior, yet you have shown us something greater. Courage, ingenuity, endurance. These are your strengths. Ethan turned to her, his gaze steady. Humans survive because we adapt, because we act when others hesitate, and because we never give up. That is all. She nodded, finally understanding what had been impossible for her to see before. Humans were not defined by technology, status, or inherited skill. Humans were defined by their spirit, their determination, and their willingness to face impossible odds. And as the night settled over the city, the people of Virelia celebrated, not only for surviving the threat, but for learning a powerful lesson. That lesson was simple yet profound. Sometimes the most unlikely heroes, the smallest and humblest of beings, can change the course of history. Ethan Callan, the human soldier who had arrived as an outsider, had done just that. His actions, courage, and wisdom had not only saved a city, but had reshaped perceptions, bridged worlds, and left a legacy that would endure for generations. And in the heart of Lyria, once mocking and proud, a new understanding had taken root. Respect, admiration, and perhaps the faintest hint of friendship now replaced her former disdain. She would never forget the human soldier who taught her and her world that greatness comes in many forms, and that sometimes the most unlikely of heroes leave the deepest mark. Ethan looked out over the city one last time before turning away. The mission was not over. Humans always had more to learn, more to face, but for now he had made a difference. And that, he knew, was what truly mattered. As the crowd dispersed, the matriarch's words echoed in every mind. Strength is not bound by species. Courage, ingenuity, and heart define the hero. Remember this, and honor those who embody it.